Finding Common Battlegrounds is an attempt by two brothers, one conservative, the other progressive, to have civil conversations about politics with a little help from their friends.
Welcome, everyone, to Finding Common Battlegrounds. This is the podcast dedicated to civility while doing political debates. So today we're going to be talking about, if not for losing the election, for the election happening, would Trump have become a dictator? Was he on course to become a dictator? So we're going to be talking about that. First, we do want to recognize our sponsor, Lux Bidets. They're incredible. If you are not into bidets, you've got to try them out. And if you do try one out, you should try Lux. But our debaters, our usual debaters, Josh and Ryan Cragen, they are brothers. Ryan's the older one. Josh is the younger one.
The sexier one.
Sexier. But they are totally, even though they grew up often in the same, sleeping in the same room, they are ideologically complete polar opposites.
Same waterbed for a while.
That's true.
That was something.
That
Weird.
was. Tom, do you remember that waterbed?
Oh, I do, yes. It's a horrible thing.
Gotta love the 80s, baby.
There's the reason nobody has waterbeds anymore.
Yep.
I think I slept in that a couple times. It's like
I'm sure you did.
In the world.
Yep.
These are our two debaters. Josh will be representing the conservative side, and Ryan will be representing the liberal side. I'm just gonna.
I don't have any sound to make.
I'm just gonna jump into this, and so this is one I chose, and here's where I kind of came from. I keep reading article after article about comparisons to Hitler. And in comparison to Trump being fascist and a dictator, and I actually have a whole bunch here that I pulled up, but that I might reference at one point or another. But throughout since 2016, right? Since even before he was elected, there was all these comparisons, and they've just gone on, and they're just a few this week were of comparisons. And so the question was like, okay, is he really Hitler, right? Is he really like Hitler? Is he really on that course? And that was really the question. So we're just kind of throwing it out there to see where we get to. And so we're gonna go ahead and start. Now, if you haven't been on here before, here's the format. Each debater has prepared 3 questions that they're going to ask the other one and try to get them to agree. We're gonna find common ground. That's why we call it common battleground. So we'll ask 3 questions. You get brownie points for how many times you can get the opposite party to agree with you. So you need to be smart, but yet hold your ground, right? Okay. Let's just go ahead. Let's go one for, this is for Ryan. This is Josh's question. Okay. All right. Ryan, would you agree that the system of checks and balances did a good job of preventing Trump from seizing more power?
Okay, the left was terrified because Trump got 2 Supreme Court appointees and he filled a whole bunch of court vacancies in lower courts. But what happened when he started filing all of his appeals about the elections in all those courts?
They shot him down.
They all shot him down. Okay. He won 1 out of 60, I think is what it was about the election. Okay. The Supreme Court wouldn't even hear his case, even though he appointed 2 of them. Okay. And there's a whole bunch of other, when he tried to domineer the states, when it came to mandates and elections and whatever, and COVID, what happened there? He quickly backpedaled when he realized, the states actually have the constitutional authority don't
give him that much credit. I don't think he actually understood why they could say no.
Maybe
they just
not.
said no,
maybe not.
And he's like, "Oh, I can't do it." Okay,
whatever. Yeah, okay. I'm not talking about his ability yet.
We will.
But the states, as part of the checks and balance system, said no. We have autonomy over healthcare and that kind of thing when it comes to our citizens. They shut him down. Okay, so the checks and balance system sorry, to say that he was on track to become a dictator, and if it weren't for the election, he'd be a dictator now. No, the checks and balances worked perfectly, in my opinion. He couldn't overstep his bounds. He couldn't seize more power than than he was allotted as the president. And there's other things we could go into. Like the people that support him. The right wing, the conservatives. Guess what? We have all the guns, and we don't like tyrants. If he really took that much power, who's gonna? What are we gonna do? Just say, okay, we're fine with that. No, we're gonna stop him. So, but ultimately, do you agree the checks and balances worked? He's out of power. Whether or not he really tried to seize power, he doesn't have it. He's gone. You have to agree with that, right?
So Ryan, did the checks and balances work then? Do you agree?
Yes. Yeah. So give him the dings, and then we'll give a little nuance. He did say they work perfectly.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yay, we got dings. I think they worked. And that's actually kind of going to be one of my points. I think it's my second point, where I talk about the checks and balances kept him from doing all the things that I'm sure he wanted to do. Were they perfect? No. So he stole money from the military to try and build his ridiculous wall that we talked about before, right? So he was able to finagle things here and there. He abused his power as much as he possibly could. But at the end of the day, yes, I agree with Josh's point. The checks and balances kept him from doing some of the things that I'm sure he wanted to do, which we'll get to later. So general agreement.
Clarification. So Josh, you said he did it do a good job of preventing Trump from seizing more power. So you are agreeing that Trump would have grabbed more power if he had the opportunity to?
Yeah, I'm going to take a lot of flack for my stance today on Trump. I don't know
That's my third point, Tom. Stop. Don't go to my third point.
Okay. All right.
It's kind of my second point.
We'll just leave it there.
We're just going to agree the whole time today.
Okay, we're going to bulldoze into that later. Okay. All right. Okay, then let's move on. 1 point for Josh. Okay. Josh, can we agree on what it means to be a dictator? Namely, that it is someone who has total power in a country.
Yeah. So this is me again, just trying to establish baseline. A dictator, and this was kind of the point, right? If not for the election, was Trump on course to be a dictator? Well, let's establish what a dictator is. A dictator is someone who has total power over a country. Total power means they are unrestricted in what they can and cannot do. For someone to be a dictator, they would need the ability to, for instance, imprison people on a whim, right? They're just like, I don't like them, put them in jail. Remove judges at their pleasure. Dictate funding choices for the treasury of the country. So he could just be like, we're going to allot all of the money here. Okay. Total power is a tall order. That's a lot of power. So can we just agree kind of at a baseline, and this is almost like preempting your previous point, that, that's what it means to be a dictator. Like we're just establishing that's what a dictator is. Yes.
I'll agree with that, but let's add some more nuance here, because that's way too easy, and this is really what I want to talk about is some of these definitions. So a dictator is somebody with basically unlimited power in a country. Let's further define, because Tom threw out the word fascism. Okay, let's define fascism, authoritarianism, and totalitarianism. Okay, and we're going to just try to give them loose definitions so people will understand what I want to talk about today at the very least. I don't know if Ryan's going to go there, but okay.
You want to define them? No, go ahead.
I'll define them very quickly. Okay.
You've got a definition already. You just want to see if we can all agree.
Yeah. Okay. This was the briefest definition I could find that I like. Authoritarianism exists when there's a hierarchy of authorized. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Authoritarianism. State rules.
Ding, ding, ding for Ryan. Yay.
Unless we don't agree on these. State rules and decides on everything, but some social and economic institutions exist that are not under government control. Okay, that's authoritarianism. And examples of that would be like China now is kind of authoritarian. The state is very powerful and they can still throw people in jail for whatever, but they do allow some economic freedoms, some social freedoms. So that's an authoritarian state.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Totalitarianism.
Thank you. is an extreme version of authoritarianism. Nothing exists but the government. Okay, so in a totalitarian state, they own everything. They tell you what to do, what to wear, where to work. So that's North Korea.
This is North Korea. Yeah, exactly.
So North Korea is probably the only existing version of that. It's complete government control, but there have been others. And then fascism brings ultra-nationalism to the mix with a hint of racism. All fascist governments are authoritarian, but not all authoritarian government are fascist. Okay, so fascism kind of brings a corporate structure into it. The people are still working. You still have a lot of freedom for the working class, but you have a strong government or a strong dictatorial leader that kind of makes deals with the corporations, that kind of thing. Do we agree on these definitions?
Well, this would be like Russia.
Yes.
Okay,
I would call Putin a fascist.
You're minimizing, I think, one of the strongest components of fascism, which is the racism and the nationalism component.
I said ultra nationalism to the
right. But let's just make sure that we're clear on what nationalism is. Nationalism is our country before everybody else.
Yes.
Okay. So it's ultra nationalism, and
those were my exact words. You're prosecuting me.
I'm not prosecuting you. I'm just making sure that we're clear. I'm not trying to prosecute. I'm saying, like, we need to make sure that when we're talking about fascism, we're saying this is our country first. Everybody else is at minimum secondary, if not tertiary or not even non-human. And then there clearly is a component of, you can call it racism, but it's basically like ethnophobia, right? Like, our ethnic group matters, and we're the only ones that matter. Everybody else, and it can go from like, we're just the best to let's put all the Jews in an oven.
Well, the reason our country,
that's
the reason our country the best is because of us. And so
okay, but you might be putting too much emphasis on that. That is Hitler.
But it's a key part of fascism, right? Like that is
Italy. But Italy wasn't quite that bad when it came to xenophobia. Okay?
Right, but I'm saying that's the range. The range is we're better than you are versus let's put all the Jews in an oven.
Okay,
that's the range.
Some sort of flavor of
Yes.
Racism.
Yes.
Because the Italians weren't that extreme, and Russia right now is not that extreme. Okay. They're not super xenophobic. They're bad.
They're pretty
they're
bad.
Fascists.
Right, they're definitely fascists.
By this definition and by my definition, but they're not Hitler type of fascists. Okay.
No. I wouldn't say
as long as we're all so, and this is going to be important for what I want to talk about, but I think it's important that people understand these definitions because there is nuance to these extreme places that governments and societies can end up. And to be clear, the right wing is associated with fascism. Okay. So if the right assumes dictatorial control, let's say Trump, became a dictator, which is really far-fetched, we would become a fascist state. Probably. I'm going to talk about that and how it's not really happening.
Wow.
But even like you're saying,
ding,
America first kind of mentality is
an element of fascism.
Yeah,
that's fascism.
Nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. And then, but to be fair, the left wants to take it to, there's varying degrees here. You could say communism, you could say totalitarianism, you could say some form of an authoritarian state, but that's where the left wing would take it if they seize complete control. And that's important to understand. But my add-on there was way longer than Ryan's question. I apologize, but now we're on the same page.
That was good. I like that. Okay. Let's go. Yeah. Next question. So here we go. Josh, who did I start with?
You started with Josh. So this is back to a question for me.
Ryan, this is Josh's second question. Ryan, would you agree that Trump did display some fascistic tendencies?
Okay, now let me be clear on my take on Trump.
What kind of question is this?
I don't know. Are you on, Josh? We're done. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Go, Josh. Take it away.
See, the problem here is I'm not partisan and Ryan is. He feels like he needs to defend poopy Joe Biden.
I haven't even defended Joe Biden for a long time.
But you feel like you have to defend your party and your. I'm just going for the truth here. Okay, that's all I care about. I care about the truth. I care about the good of the country.
Nice.
I'm not going to go so far as to call Trump a fascist, because I have found a really funny quote about that. Roger Griffin, professor of history at Oxford, Brooks University, summed it up well. You can be a total xenophobic, racist, male chauvinist bastard and still not be a fascist. Okay. He wasn't.
I mean, that's a very fine line.
Not really, because to be a fascist, okay, the left tries to equate, like Tom was saying, the left tries to equate Trump with Hitler and some of these horrible dictators. What did he do that was even remotely? I mean, he has some tendencies to seize power, and we can go. I'm going to go through a list real quick, and I want you both to weigh in.
And that's but that's your point, right? Is that like, yeah, sure, he has some tendencies, right?
Yeah, so he has some tendencies.
Ryan, agreed.
Yeah. Reframe the question.
Would you agree that Trump did display some fascistic tendencies?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Are you setting me up? Are you setting me up? This is a setup.
You're ding ding, ding ding, Josh. Good job.
Honestly, not today. I want both of you to answer these. If you think Trump, I found a list. There's, it's a well accepted list of 14 characteristics of fascism. So let's go through it real quick.
Oh, we're gonna take the
quiz. Who is it written by?
This one was by Lawrence Britt, but it was quoted by a whole bunch of people. Most of them really hate Trump. So
I actually wrote about this on my blog years ago. Lawrence Britt is a hack. Sorry.
Oh, well, let's go through them. And if you disagree with them, because this was I found like 8 lists. This was the one I liked the most. So number 1, powerful and continuing nationalism, the Trump-like nationalism.
His very policy was America first. So that's pretty easy.
So that is a fascist tendency.
Ding, ding.
Disdain for the recognition of human rights.
Not
really.
I would say that he didn't really care about
rate him on each
people,
of these 1 to 5. He didn't care about some people, but he wasn't like, let's torture everybody. So I'd give him a 1 or a 2. So not big fascism there. Identification of enemies, scapegoats as a unifying cause. Yeah,
but again, it's probably not a 5.
Everybody does that. Okay, the Democrats definitely do that.
Everybody does it, right?
Supremacy of the military.
Like what does that mean? Like he has control.
I'll read the definition. Even when there are widespread domestic problems, the military is given a disproportionate amount of government funding, and the domestic agenda is neglected. Soldiers' military service are glamorized.
Well, that's an American complicated thing. It is. So I think that supersedes Trump. I don't think it's just him who did that, but he definitely. I mean, we all remember like when he went to France and they had their military parade, and he's like, "I want that in the U.S. I want to spend $14 million to parade tanks down Washington D.C." Right? Like, he definitely glorified the military. There's no question.
But that is an American thing. A lot of people on the left do that.
I never saw him do anything like, I'm going to increase, I'm going to double the funding for the military or anything.
He did increase the funding for the military. It wasn't like double, but he did increase the funding.
One of the other lists talked about, to be a fascist, if you want to be Mussolini or Hitler, the military is everything. Hitler is parading around in military dress, and right off the bat, these fascist dictators are conquering other countries. Trump was not a warmonger. I'm sorry.
He wanted to buy Greenland.
He wanted to buy Greenland. He didn't want to invade it. Okay. Let's
all right. Yeah. Let's go on. Yeah.
Rampant sexism.
Yes, that's a 5.
He's a sexist, but he didn't promote that. He would have been destroyed if he promoted that.
He straight up admitted he grabbed women by the pussy.
I would agree.
He's a sexist, but he didn't promote that. That wasn't part of his agenda. That was just him. Okay. Controlled mass media.
I would agree.
He didn't control the media.
Wanted to. He absolutely wanted to.
But he didn't. No. Obsession with national security. Kind of an American thing. Religion and government are intertwined.
Absolutely.
How?
He gassed the protesters at the White House to walk across to hold up a Bible upside down to take a photo op in front of a church. He pandered incredibly. Sure, but it was incessant. He pandered to evangelical Christians.
All right, continue on.
That's fine, but he absolutely did.
Corporate power.
I've got friends who wrote an entire book about that. White Christian nationalism.
Corporate power is protected.
Man, that's just the U.S. generally.
I would actually be more harsh than you on that one, but
Yeah.
okay. Labor power suppressed.
I don't know that he did any more than Reagan.
Yeah. So again, some of these he's high, a lot of these he's not.
Right.
Disdain for intellectuals in the arts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Elitist. Yeah.
Obsession with crime and punishment.
Well, he talked about it a lot, but that's the weird thing. His policies were actually not particularly.
He met with people a lot about prison reform and stuff like that. So
he actually pushed through prison reform. He kept saying punitive
like,
things.
I'm law and order.
Actually do it. Yeah,
Right.
But he didn't actually do it.
We're going to get tough
with
on
a lot
this
of
guy.
these. What we see is more demagoguery than actual fascism. Okay. Rampant cronyism and corruption.
Yes. Come on.
Yeah, that one probably. And fraudulent elections. That's funny.
Well,
he didn't rig the election.
I don't think he was smart enough to rig it.
Yeah, that was semantics.
Yeah, the first one, Russia may have rigged it for him, but we don't know. I don't think
they
we really
didn't.
know.
They interfered a little bit.
Right.
Okay, but I'm trying to be brief here. I would
as
like
they
to
do
spend
in
a lot of
every
time on
election.
this.
But yes, I would say he. He definitely was kind of pushing. He was kind of strong arming some people in this latest election, right? He
tried
trying to get the result he wanted, but
he tried, but he ultimately failed, which means he's a demagogue and a bully. Yeah. But you can't call him a fascist because he to be a fascist, you have to have like an organized plan and people supporting you and probably the military supporting you. Did any of that happen? No.
And I've said the full list.
We just have the same points today.
I've said this to Ryan before.
What do you think? What do you think?
Let me just finish with this. I've said this to Ryan before. A strong man, a dictator, doesn't walk out of office. He blustered a lot, but he walked out of office. Okay. Now, so is that list good enough? Because you don't like Lawrence Britt?
I actually just checked my blog post on this years ago. Somebody sent it to me in like 2004. Holy crap, that's ancient. People put it out as though he was a PhD in political science, and it turns out he wasn't. So people were setting him up as like being really, educated and knowledgeable about this. And it's not like his list is horribly wrong. It's just people are claiming credentials for him that he doesn't actually have.
Who cares? You freaking professors and your credentials. If the list is good, just call it good and let's move on. I thought it was a pretty good list.
So that's fine. It's fine. It
was a pretty good list. Okay.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Okay. We're going to move on to Ryan's second question. Josh, can we agree that Trump was and is cruel?
Okay. So I'm going to cut my point down here. Based on my first point, Trump was not a dictator. He did not have total unchecked power. He was, however, an unchecked tyrant for the first 2 years of his administration. But tyrant, and it sounds like we're making the same points. Tyrant just means a cruel and oppressive ruler. Okay. And I put together a crazy list of like examples of his cruelty. I'm not going to go through it all because I think we're probably going to agree on this, but I want to hit a couple of these just because I think they're awesome. Trump insulted Hugh Hewitt to his face by saying that very few people listen to his radio show. Were you aware of that one?
Yeah, I heard that one.
Yeah. So he called Ted Cruz's wife ugly, mocked Chris Christie's weight. He actually
this is a long list, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to go through all of these. Some of them I don't
have to go through any of them. I mean, we get it.
He claimed his mistress was better in bed than his first wife Ivana, and actually put that on the front page of tabloids in New York. He mocked John McCain for being captured and tortured as a POW. Yeah. Probably one of the worst. I don't know which is right here. He met with Mitt Romney after he won the election and had Mitt Romney have dinner with him. And there was a total photo op, and Mitt Romney was miserable. And he taunted Mitt Romney by saying he was going to make him Secretary of State. And then he did nothing and then just mocked him. Let's see what else. He relentlessly attacked Jeff Sessions as Attorney General for not breaking the law as Trump wanted, even insulting his stature and his looks. He mocked people with disabilities, and so on and so on. Okay. I'm not going to go through all of them. I had a massive list. Trump is a heartless, bloviating piece of crap human being. But to Josh's first point, American democracy survived him because we have some checks and balances in our government that worked fairly well, and there were some decent people in his administration who occasionally tied his little bully hands. So, Josh, can we agree that Trump was and is cruel?
When it's pretty harsh, because, and it's overlooking a lot of the good he did. I don't want to just totally come down on him. He's donated a whole bunch to charity. He's not the worst person on the planet.
Okay, I'll concede that. I'll concede that he's not as bad as serial killers.
He's definitely
fine. He's definitely a bully. He's definitely cruel.
I'll give it to you. I don't like the guy. He did better than I thought he would do. And I find myself defending him constantly just because the economy was good. I liked how he dealt with, I liked his foreign policy. We didn't get in any more wars. It wasn't perfect, but he did better than I thought he was going to do. But I don't think he's a great person.
Okay. Let me ask just one other thing. I meant to change this, actually. I thought of it later, and then I had too much to drink at my happy hour today. So apologies. I know our listening audience is mostly LDS, but right after he got elected, I started asking Trump supporters this one question. If you have kids, would you want your kids to be like Donald Trump? Tom, you have 5. Josh, you have 4. Would you want any of your kids, would you say, I hope you grow up to be like Donald Trump?
Just like Donald Trump, hair and all. No.
Josh?
I'm going to be even harsher again, because the question what I told people is, I wouldn't let my wife or kids be around Donald Trump or I wouldn't let him babysit my children.
Right. He's a horrible human being. Now, that's all aside from the politics. We're obviously debating the specific nuances, but at the end of the day, he was a cruel, make some arguments for him.
It seems like he raised some pretty decent kids. His kids seem pretty well adjusted, and they're successful and well spoken. If you don't like them, that's fine. But he did some things okay. Okay, so I'm not going to just completely dismiss him and cancel him like the left likes to do with people.
I'm not canceling.
There's
Donald Trump.
The left tried to cancel him. They kicked him off Twitter and Facebook and everything.
Because he started an insurrection. I think that's reasonable.
He did not start an insurrection. That's foolish. That's foolish.
Okay. I think ding ding for Ryan.
Yes.
And
I think we got agreement.
We're going to move on to the next question. Ryan, would you agree that the left does display some authoritarian tendencies? That the left does display some authoritarian tendencies, and if you don't agree, you're either blind or a partisan piece of crap.
So there wasn't really a setup. There was just a loaded question at the end.
Yeah. I had to do something to spice it up.
Okay.
Well, I kind of wonder, because we're kind of in agree. I mean, there's a lot of agreement here, and I almost wonder if I should have gone who is the biggest dictator, Trump or Biden, right?
See that's
I think that's where you're going, right?
That's exactly where I'm going. Okay, right. Because, and this is why I started out by explaining the difference between fascism, which is the far right, and then authoritarianism, or however you want to spell it on the left, communism, totalitarianism, whatever. Whatever.
Communism. We talked about communism. It's not that. Let's call it authoritarianism. Let's just go with authoritarianism.
We'll stick with authoritarianism. So here's I found a couple more lists. Again, the problem is there's no definitive list that defines these things. This one was pretty good. I didn't love this one. I found one 5 hours ago at work, and I could not find it when I got home, which sucks. So I'll just hurry and read through this one, and we'll do the same thing if the left, the Democratic Party or Joe Biden display these tendencies. So number 1, the dictator and party is exactly that. A totalitarian regime needs a strong dictator that wields a small and thoroughly ideological indoctrinated political party that allows the said dictator to obtain complete political control of their state.
Okay, we already established what a dictator is, and we agreed on that, and that's total control. Mm-hmm. And clearly Biden does not have total control. He is not a dictator.
But does he want it? Because this is the same rubric that you judged Trump by. Does he want to be a fascist dictator? Maybe.
Biden?
No. Well, no,
Or
I'm saying Trump. Okay.
Oh.
We're using the same
I think
rubric.
Trump this is my third point. I think
Okay.
Trump wanted to be a dictator.
Does
I think he
Biden?
did.
He's been seeking control his whole life. He's been in political office his entire life. I would say he wants way more control than he has. And you're not going to want to because you're so partisan, but the left ultimately.
Why do you keep insisting that I'm so partisan?
Because you are.
Everybody who listens to this on my side is like, dude, you are such a moderate. Like, grow a spine and fight that guy.
Oh,
I'm in the middle. I'm not partisan. I'm literally in the middle. And you keep saying I'm the partisan.
Yes.
I need to get 2 new debaters. You guys are too centrist. You guys see the eye to eye way too much.
On some things we are. Okay, well, all right. Number 2, the totalitarian. We'll skip that one. Propaganda and terror is the whip that keeps the population in line.
Terror is definitely on the right. The left doesn't do much as far as terror goes. We talked about this before.
Maybe,
it's all about
not
fear,
as much,
right?
But there's. Well,
no,
right.
remember we talked about this. Left is outrage, right is outrage and fear. Right? We talked about that. Like, we agreed on that. Like, I don't know how many.
That doesn't mean that the left doesn't engage in fear mongering. The left absolutely does. Look at the whole gun control debate. It's all about fear mongering.
All right, let's get back here. So, Josh, you've got a list of things of fascistic
authoritarian regime would do.
Yeah. Okay. And you're trying to create some.
I was trying to suggest that Biden is more of an authoritarian than Trump.
No, right.
No, that's not actually what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying
what are you saying then?
The right the political right tends towards fascistic tendencies, nationalism, that kind of thing. The left tends towards authoritarian. The political left tends towards authoritarian tendencies. Okay. And I'll just summarize, screw the list. Okay.
Yeah. Just
Thank
give
you.
us your case. Make your case.
Directing the economy, redistributing the wealth, making it all fair. Okay. That's an authoritarian thing. The left's all about that. Controlling, having a monopoly on the guns, on the weapons. That's absolutely a left thing. And that's authoritarian to its core. Okay. The first thing that, look at the Taliban when they took over Afghanistan. What was the first thing they did to the citizens? They went around and said, you don't need your guns anymore. We're going to protect you. If you don't give us your guns, we'll kill you. That just happened. Okay. All authoritarian regimes do that. They disarm the people immediately. I
would say the left generally supports a strong centralized power, right? Which, I guess you could say has it tends to be an authoritarian tendency, but
we simplify that by saying big government. The left's way more about big government.
The things that I know have really kind of made people's hair stand up would be like President Biden, the forced vaccines, right? The vaccine mandates.
Okay, that's authoritarian. The government telling you what you have to do, how to live your life, and this is not political. This is social. Okay, or health. I guess it could be defined as healthcare. The left is stepping in and saying you have to be vaccinated, or you have to stay in your house.
Okay, but
that's authoritarian.
You're assuming that it's only the left that does this, and this was one of the things that I sent in that chat earlier. I live in a state that has a Republican governor, and one of the local municipalities said, "You know what? We're going to ban plastic straws." And the governor stepped in and said, "No, you're not. You're not going to do that. We're not going to allow you to do that. You don't get to control your local area." Isn't that authoritarianism? It's the state dictating to local municipalities that you can and can't do things. So when you go around and say like, "Oh, it's only the left. They want to dictate what you can and can't do," I get really frustrated by that because the right does it all the time.
They do this.
It's just when they're in power, that's what they do.
No. Okay. You're putting words in my mouth because I agreed with you on the straw thing. And when we went through the list of fascist tendencies, you didn't point out any. This is why I call you partisan. You didn't point out any that the left does. Okay. Control mass media. Does the left want to control the media? They do control the media. Okay, that's a huge part of the left. So we can go through that list again of fascist things and see where there's overlap. I'm not going to. That's why I call you partisan, because
we had
you
a whole
don't.
podcast about the media, and you agreed that there are some that are middle of the road.
Oh my gosh, not really. I agreed that there's like 2, and then it's 95% left. So the left controls the media.
All right, Ryan, would you agree that the left does display some authoritarian tendencies then?
Can we add the caveat that the right does too?
Yeah.
Josh wants to call them fascist.
Let's put it this way.
I already did. That was my second point.
Right, Josh, can I say the question as are more have tendencies more authoritarian than the right?
That would be a biased thing, and I know Ryan won't agree to that if you phrase it that way. But
well,
why don't we just phrase it this way?
One is more authoritarian than the other. So
the left has some authoritarian tendencies, and the right has authoritarian tendencies. They both do. Whoever's in power is going to want to push their agenda, and their agenda obviously is going to include, you have to do these things, you shouldn't do those things. And the right does this, and the left does this.
You don't think one is more than the other, then, right?
No, well, maybe.
I think that's what Josh is trying to get at.
I think he's trying to push down that, but he's also admitting that the right does this. He just is putting it as like fascist.
I'm not. The point of my final statement,
because this is an easy question then. Because of course they do. Everybody does, right? But then both parties do to some extent.
I mean, we couldn't talk about that, and that would be an interesting debate, but that's not what I was getting at tonight. And I'll explain what I'm getting at with my closing statement, I guess.
Yeah.
Or I can just explain now. It's really just the question: does the left display authoritarian tendencies?
Yeah, Ryan.
I will say yes, as long as we have that caveat in place that the right does.
The right does.
That was my whole second thing. I was even harder on the right.
It's awesome. Okay.
See, you're so defensive when I go after the left. So defensive.
All right.
I'm nuanced.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay. You guys, you're all doing well tonight. Okay. Last final question, Josh. Can we agree that Trump wanted to be a dictator? That's an interesting question. My
final point is that Trump would have liked to have been a dictator, but he couldn't because of the checks and balance in our government. Trump expressed to some members of administration that he envied Putin, who has changed the laws in Russia so he can stay in power indefinitely. Trump tried to do the same thing by undermining our democratic system, claiming that he was A, going to win the 2020 election, but B, if he lost, it was only because of cheating, and C, he refused to concede the election. And I know you're not going to agree with this, but helped orchestrate an attempted coup against American democracy with the January 6th insurrection that invaded the US Capitol building. Trump railed against the press. He literally tried to change weather forecasts after the fact. He lied tens of thousands of times during his presidency. In every respect, Trump wanted to be a dictator. Luckily, our democracy survived it. So can we agree that he wanted to be a dictator, even though he wasn't?
So I'm sorry. So I understood that the FBI investigation into the January 6th attack was that there was no collusion with Trump, like that Trump did not support or orchestrate anything. I thought that was the conclusion.
It doesn't matter how many times you tell him that, Tom, he's not going to believe you.
Okay. And you can have an opinion but okay. But I don't. I know of no evidence that supports that. But that's okay.
It's not okay. I'm with Tom on that one.
What I mean is, be it as it may, the question still stands: did Trump want to be a dictator? And I guess could we say, Ryan, that like if we didn't have better checks and balances, Trump would be a dictator. Like he would still be in office right now, like doing stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a weird, fun hypothetical to consider, right? Like what checks and balances, if we remove them, would have led Trump to become a dictator? That's a fair question. It's a fun kind of counterfactual.
If he'd been in like Argentina or something like that, like he'd now be like have changed with a sort of a weaker government structure. He would have been like running things.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try and avoid going down a path that I don't want to go down this other path that I because Josh is just gonna say partisan, you're so partisan.
Being partisan.
Okay. That's fine.
Did we get Josh to answer the question?
No,
I want to hear Josh's answer.
No. I was sort of throwing it around, but yeah, let's keep the question as it is. Did he want to be a dictator, Josh?
I mean, it's such a hard question to answer because ultimately you're asking me to read the man's mind. I've never met him.
But I mean, we can already say that for the dictator quiz we took, that there was a few that we answered he didn't but wanted to, right? He didn't have.
He's obviously a sociopath. He's obviously a narcissist. He presents himself with the same bearing as Mussolini. Okay, he presents a lot of dictatorial or fascistic traits or tendencies. Granted, I don't know if he would actually be a dictator on par with Mussolini or Hitler and start throwing Muslims in ovens or something. I don't know that. So for me to just...
But that wasn't the question. The question was, do you think he wanted to be a dictator?
That wasn't the question.
Yeah.
It wasn't,
can we agree that Trump wanted...
dictator?
Can we agree that Trump wanted to be a dictator?
I don't know.
You just said like
maybe.
All he is just
Probably.
a more mild form of Mussolini and Hitler. Like that's what you're basically saying.
Well, no, I don't know if he'd be more mild. He might be worse. Okay.
Oh.
I don't know.
Ding ding, ding ding. Where's my ding ding, Tom? Come on.
Hang on, I'm waiting for this to settle out. I'm still confused on what Josh is saying.
Sure, I don't know. I can't read his mind. I don't know what he really wanted.
Okay, can I rephrase?
No, because part of me, I think he just loves attention and he loves power. I don't know if he would actually be a dictator. I don't know if he had that in his DNA. He's really full of himself. I don't think he ever thought he was even going to win the first election. Okay. I don't think he was really seeking that kind of power. He just loves the limelight and the spotlight.
And I don't know. To your point, Josh, that he left office willingly.
Yeah.
He was just like, yeah, I'm just a dick, but okay, I lost.
He could have fought it way harder than he did. He could have actually called for insurrection, which he didn't do. Oh my God. Okay. Sure. I'll give you 80% agreement because I think maybe he would have, but I don't know. I don't think he's really that bad of a guy. I think he's just a sociopath that doesn't understand empathy and is super narcissistic. And
you wouldn't let your kids or your wife be in the same room with him.
No, because I don't think he's a great guy.
Not that bad of a guy. He's like,
that's not what I'm saying.
You literally just said he's not that bad of a guy. That's a quote. Can we go back and rewind? And like Josh said, he's not that bad of a guy.
I don't know if he's that bad of a guy. I don't know. That's what I'm answering. I don't know if he would be a dictator. That's a serious accusation you're leveling. Okay, you realize that, right? You're saying that he would throw Jews in ovens if he's
No. I'm not saying that. No, we already established at the beginning that there is a range on fascism, right? And we said this. Basically, fascism starts from we're better than you are.
Who's the most mild dictator?
The most mild dictator?
I mean, you want to say
like Chavez around the world right now, like living
historically, because even the most mild dictator committed a lot of atrocities and murdered a lot of people.
Yeah, but we could even go like mild quasi dictators would be people like Putin or Erdogan in Turkey, who Erdogan is like yeah, but Erdogan I don't think is like throwing people in ovens. He's imprisoned a lot of people. I don't know that he's killed lots, but Putin clearly has. I mean, like, who are we kidding? He just lies about it. Says he has.
So that's
but Erdogan is like the most mild you could get because
that's what I'm saying. The charge
he's like an Erdogan.
The charge you're leveling is that he would have no concern about people's rights and he would be happy killing anybody that opposed him.
No,
I don't know if
the
I
charge
can go
I'm leveling is he would imprison people. I don't think he would have any qualms being like, I don't like that journalist, put them in jail. I think he would absolutely go that far.
Do you think
maybe?
Okay.
I think he would do that.
But let's
killing
be cautious.
people, I don't know about that.
He'd be a very nice dictator. All right. Okay.
Well, I don't know. He might be.
I'm giving.
He might be worse than Hitler. I don't know.
I don't know.
Let's be cautious about leveling that charge because when, to Tom's point at the very beginning, when people say, "Oh, he's Hitler," that is a freaking serious charge to level, and people throw it around like it's nothing. Okay. Let's
fair.
Let's speak
when
properly.
He does one thing like Hitler, okay, but that doesn't make him Hitler. Right?
Thank you. No, that's what I'm getting at.
Right, and I get that. Okay, and all right, let's. That was good. We had full agreement across the board.
Is that our first time?
With lots of caveats, but and nuances, but as we always do. But okay, Ryan, let's bring it home. I want to hear your closing statement then.
My closing statement is on my shirt today. Jean-Luc Picard for president, please make it so. He would not be a dictator. He would be a much better president. And I think we can all agree that we should have Jean-Luc Picard for president. Yeah.
Sexiest man on the planet.
There we go. And
what's the Star Trek?
Eggnog is awesome.
We go where places we haven't gone before. Dang it.
Go where no person has gone before.
Man.
To boldly go. No,
man.
They changed it to boldly go where no one has gone before. They changed it with next gen. They changed it with next gen. Yeah. In the original, it was to go where no man has gone, to boldly go where no man has gone before. And then they changed it with next gen to boldly go where no person has gone before, or no one.
Anything else, Ryan?
No, I mean, we agreed on everything, right? So I think the general sentiment is Trump was not a dictator. I think he displayed lots of dictatorial tendencies, clearly wanted to go down that path. There's a lot of evidence for that. He admired dictators. He talked about how much he liked dictators. But luckily, right, our system was able to withstand that threat to our democracy. And I'm going to leave it at that. I've got lots more I could say, but Josh is just going to level accusations of partisanship at me, so I'll just leave it. Partisan.
Will you die?
Partisan.
Okay. Josh.
What I really want to get at is we need to be very careful about any authoritarian structure taking root in our country, because the left has its authoritarian tendencies and so does the right. And I'm sorry, but this is indisputable. And I'm not, here's the funny thing, because Ryan and I are so different. I look at fascism and go, that's a bit more palatable to me because the middle class, still has economic freedom and still has some power, some agency. And Ryan will go, well, communism is a little more palatable to me. So if I have to choose one, I'm going to choose communism. And I'm over here saying, well, if I have to choose one, I'll choose fascism. Let's not choose either. Let's choose agency and freedom. That's what I'm getting at. And we cover up. So many people cover up for Trump because, look at the economy. Just compare 4 years of Trump and the year of Biden. The economy's tanked. We got crazy inflation. And they're really similar in a lot of aspects. Biden's not such a blowhard, but he is a piece of crap, and he is a sexist. He's assaulted people. So I'm not even going to compare their personal lives. The economy is worse under Biden because he doesn't understand it, and he's more authoritarian in how he rules. And Ryan's not going to agree with any of this, but it's quite obvious. So I'm saying, well, I prefer the fascist over the authoritarian because at least the economy is good. And the left is over there saying, well, I prefer the authoritarian because they're more about safe spaces and equality and all that stuff. And, so what that the economy's bad. Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm making some crazy generalizations and blowing it out of proportion, but both sides, the right and the left, we have our own authoritarian system that is more palatable to us. So we make excuses for it. Yeah. And what I'm saying today is let's not, broker any authoritarianism. Let's get rid of it and just have freedom and democracy. It's working and it's awesome. Let's make sure we double down on that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. The subject should have been who is the bigger dictator, right? Biden or Trump. That would have made it for a funner discussion. I think so. Because I think there's I think you're both pretty much agreeing on the same thing and maybe I can sum it up, that Trump had dictator tendencies, but that our system, our checks and balance of our system just was strong enough to keep him into his term, and we moved on, right? And that's good, but yeah. So I think that would have made for a more lively debate to kind of change the context of that. But the other thing I was going to say, so I did read an article about this while I was doing some research on this. Where is it? Here it is. No, where it's basically saying the beer hall pushed. Have you guys know what that is? that was
when Hitler tried to take over by arms.
Yeah, it was basically his coup d'etat attempt that failed, and he was in prison for 10 years. And then, or sorry, not for 10 years, but it was 10 years before he became chancellor. And he did serve in prison for a little while. And
he was in for like 9 months. It was a 5-year sentence, but only served for 9 months.
Yeah. And but this was like way before he became, a total dictator. And so but a lot of people have been comparing what Trump's January 6th insurrection is. That was his beer hall putsch. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but so it's interesting. And, there's this whole like, is he going to run again in 2024? And, so there's this idea of like, well, he wasn't a dictator, but neither was Hitler at this point in time, right? And that he will be. And so anyway, I just wanted to discuss, like, is there merit to these arguments? Is there merits to some of these things? And I actually did a lot of research, and the reason why I brought this up was I was doing research about Hitler for an unrelated video I'm doing, and I was surprised at a number of things. The Third Reich was a total call to nationalism, right? And and there's some similarities to Make America Great Again, right? It's a call to your golden age, bringing back the golden age of your times, and then there was a Donald Trump has a lot of support from a sort of the blue collar working class group, and a strong support, which Hitler did as well. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. A lot of more similarities than I initially than I knew. And so I thought this would be an interesting topic to do it. But I think we've all come to the same conclusion. But I think there's definitely some, I don't know. I think I'm with Josh in that I think we and Ryan, that we see Trump for who he is, and that's that we have to, like Josh said, we don't want any of it, so we have to just protect ourselves and like call these things out when we see them. But I'm going to flip the coin. I do agree with, like John Stewart was talking about, like, I think it was a mistake to villainize Trump the way he did, the way the media did, and create such like this immediate call to calling him Hitler, I think is dangerous, and sometimes makes your enemy more powerful than it. I think it actually fueled Trump in many ways, and created a kind of a numbness to actually valid accusations. People, because once you start calling someone Hitler, there's nothing, you can't go back down from that, right? It's like, well, okay, he's the worst person that ever lived. Well, okay, if that's not true, then, and I don't believe anything else you say, right, is basically what happens after that. So it's
agreed.
It's interesting. It's like it's somewhere in the middle, right, as we always say. But that's sort of my take on it. Anything else?
Can I confess something to the two of you?
Yeah.
When Trump first took office, I did post on Facebook, worst president ever. Trump equals worst president ever or worst person ever. And
with a question mark.
Yeah, with a question mark. Pretty quickly, I don't think I was being entirely serious about the second part, right? Like, clearly, I don't think he's worse than Hitler. Like that's fine.
You're making a point.
Yeah.
Right. But it's inflated.
It was probably naive to say that, particularly at the beginning of his presidency, right? I think the jury's still out on whether he was the worst president ever. I don't know. Okay. I don't know enough about other presidents, and certainly we'll have future presidents. So that's an open question. But I think it is safe to say at this point, he was not the worst person ever, right? I don't like him, but I think we all agree on that, right? Like, none of us think that he's a good, upstanding person, but so I'm confessing, right? Early on in his administration, I was maybe closer to the partisan Josh actually thinks I am, or at least accuses me of being. But
you
I'm
said
not
you were
that
surprised
person.
by what the comments, and
some of the comments very quickly were like, "That's just a stupid question, right?" Obviously, he's not the worst person ever, and I think it was the surprise that he won. That when Republicans had so many better candidates, why he was the one who was picked, right? Like, I find myself longing for why couldn't Mitt Romney have been president? Or like, so many people would have been better presidents
because
than
the
Trump.
left vilified Mitt Romney to no end for no reason.
But yeah,
but we did the same thing to Trump, and he still became president, right? So
Because the right
that's
was
fine.
sick of it.
Yeah.
No,
Anyway, so
yeah.
that's my confession, is like, it was just a stupid claim to make. So I was there at one point, like, insinuating that he was the worst person ever. I don't think that. And I was quickly corrected. So that's my confession. I've just confessed that I was in that camp. I'm not in that camp anymore.
Interesting.
But I think that's valuable because it doesn't help the discourse to just demonize your political opponents.
Yes.
That's why I had so much pushback on that one question of Ryan's. He's not the worst person ever. He has done some good things. You know, his presidency wasn't a train wreck. Okay. He pushed through the vaccine really fast. You got to give him marks for that kind of stuff. I'll match Ryan with a confession of my own. When he ran in 2016, I did not vote for him. Okay. I thought he would be a complete train wreck. I knew he wasn't a good person. I mean, that's obvious. If I'm not going to let my children be around him, it's hard for me to vote for somebody to have that much power if I just don't think they have any moral character. I voted for him the second time because the alternative was this amazing guy that goes to the climate conference and falls asleep in front of all the cameras.
All right.
Can I ask a real quick question though? Okay. Imagine Josh and Jessica, okay, so that's his wife, need a babysitter. And there are 3 people available. Trump,
Biden,
Trump, and Obama. Which one would you actually
why
recommend?
Obama?
I'm just throwing him in because I want to see the answer to this.
I've gone on the record. I had posted this on Facebook. I've told people I would hang out with Obama. He seems like a cool guy.
Bingo.
His policies.
You may disagree with his politics,
garbage,
right?
but he's a
garbage.
decent human being. He's a decent human being.
Decent.
You may not feel the same way about Biden.
He lied
I
a
get
lot.
that you may not feel the same way about Biden. Okay,
Biden's
I
a
don't
piece of
fully
crap.
understand it, but I think it's fascinating.
Biden's
You're
basically
saying
done everything that Trump has
Okay,
done.
but
He's
we're not-
assaulted people.
that's fine.
Right. So you choose Obama.
No
My point
question
is
about it.
right like morality and decency supersede party, right? That it doesn't matter.
For me, they do. For me,
Right.
they do. That's
I
why I
think-
didn't vote
I
for
think
Trump.
that's why we need to reflect on this, because I would make the same decision. Not that I feel as strongly about Biden as Josh does, but if I had those 3 to choose as babysitters, right? There's no way in hell that it would be Trump. Like, absolutely not. I would be fearful for my son's life. Biden, probably fine, but questions. I would have no qualms with Obama.
Okay.
No qualms with Obama.
See, that's why I call you partisan. Biden has a way bigger track record of sniffing little kids and grabbing little kids. And there's pictures of him with his hands on little girls' chests and stuff. He has a way bigger track record of weird
Tom,
sexual
step in.
behavior.
Stop him.
No,
Stop
because
him.
you're wrong.
Stop it.
Sexual deviant behavior when it comes to kids is way, way worse for Biden. There's nothing for Trump. He assaults
agree.
women, not children.
I agree with Ryan
that's better,
in that there's like morality before party should I wish everyone would adopt that, right? And like I saw Trump coming from a mile away and I was like, I'm not voting for that guy. I never vote for that guy.
Yeah.
What he is. I don't care. Supreme Court, blah, 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 blah. Right. I don't care. And here's the thing though, this way before that he was ever on the primary ballot, he was the nominee. Right. And, but you got it. The problem is this goes both ways in that the only reason Trump became president is because Hillary Clinton was the opposing party. Right. And no one wanted her. And no one should have voted for her. She was a moral train wreck as well, morally bankrupt. And
you'll note that I didn't put Bill Clinton in the list of babysitters.
Yeah, right.
That was intentional.
But like that's a problem, right? We keep putting party before morality, and we keep getting these awful choices at the ballot box.
But
right?
it's because the alternative is worse. Why can't we just have one decent human being run for president?
So fun little statistic, and I know we need to end, is before Trump was elected, evangelical Christians in the US it was like 80% said the morality of the candidate actually matters.
Yeah.
And after Trump was elected, that dropped to like 20%.
Yeah.
And I think that is a stunning condemnation of Trump supporters, that they're basically like, you know what? I don't care about his morality. I'm going to support him. I will support him regardless.
But
then I know Josh is going to turn that around and say, I'm a hypocrite. But
no, I'm not, because I agree with you, but it's not taking into account the opposition, because, you know, it's either vote for Trump or vote for Biden, and they're both freaking douchebags. So you have to live with yourself voting for one or the other. So
okay, but you do understand that Biden was not my first choice.
You want to know who I voted for in 2020?
Who'd you vote for, Tom?
Kanye West, baby.
Did you really?
Did you really?
I didn't want these douchebags on my conscience, so I just put in.
That's why Tom is the moderator.
Right.
I like it.
Kanye West. You couldn't find somebody better to vote. Was he on the ticket? Was he actually on the ticket?
Yeah, in Utah he was.
He was on the ticket in Utah. He wasn't in Florida. Okay.
Right.
He's pretty morally bankrupt too, though.
He's stunningly morally bankrupt.
He's trying, guys. He's trying.
He thinks he's God. I don't think that's his name anymore. Now it's Yah or Yay or something. Yay.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Let's wrap this train wreck up. Okay. Well, that was a fun episode. That was interesting.
Let's wrap it up with a plea from all three of us, just out into the diaspora. Somebody with some sort of shred of moral decency run. That's all I want.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. What the moral person?
Please be a Democrat.
It won't be. Who do you guys have? You got nobody on the roster.
I had to.
Thanks for tuning in. See you
all right.
Next
shut
episode. Adios.
Josh, we may not always agree when it comes to politics, even though we're trying, but there is one thing we agree on. There is only one way to clean up after going to the bathroom, and that's with a Lux bidet.
I've been a proud owner of a Lux bidet for years. I have literally owned a Lux Neo 320 since 2013. That's the warm water model. Talk about happy, fun, poopy time. When I leave the bathroom, I know I'm clean and ready to talk politics in a civilized manner.
Exactly. Using a toilet without a bidet is about as uncivilized as it gets. Civil conversations demand civil hygiene practices.
And that is why our listeners should get themselves a Lux bidet.
And just to be clear, Lux is not supporting one side or the other in this podcast. They support civil conversations and clean butts.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Finding Common Battlegrounds. The music is by Ben Sound. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and not those of their employers. For more information or more episodes, you can find us at findingcommonbattlegrounds.com.